Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Hyder, Gate City Media Company. What's up, y'all? Today's topic. I hate to say this. I really do hate to say this, but Howie Roseman has done a good job saving the ship he almost sunk. I think those are true words. I think you have to take everything into context in this conversation we're going to have today. And by the way, I'm shooting this from my couch because I want it to be a little bit more comfortable and this be a little less formal and a little bit more informal in terms of the discussion today. But let's talk about it, guys. I mean, on one hand, I've said this a million times. What Howie Roseman did essentially is walk into Jeffrey Lurie's office with alligators, set them free inside of Jeffrey Lurie's office and say, hey, seems like you have an alligator problem. I got good news, though. Here's my business card. I'm really good at, wrangling alligators. That's kind of what he did. But at the same time, I have to say, I got to give the guy credit, man. He repaired what he broke, and he's done a really good job. The Philadelphia Eagles are in incredible shape after this season. For 2022-2023, the Eagles are in really, really good shape, and things get a lot better in 2023. I got to give him credit, guys. He definitely caused some of the situations that we're seeing, but he also did a heck of a job fixing and making up for the mistakes that he made. And I want to start off by diving deep into what exactly occurred. So let's start off with where everything, the origins of this all. Everything kind of collapses at the end of the 2020 season. And we are at one point $90-some million over the cap. I think people forget that figure, that at one point we were $90-some million over the cap, and Howie had a role to play in that. He was partially responsible for the cap being that high, why we were that far over, right? There were some bad contracts like Malik Jackson's. There were some bad contracts like Alshon Jeffries. There were some bad contracts like Deshaun Jackson's. But he was chasing a ring. He was chasing a second ring. He was trying to get the right guys around what was perceived to be a franchise quarterback to chase that second ring. It didn't work. There were some really bad decisions made in terms of personnel and the money, and things collapsed at the end of 2020. We all know that. To make matters worse, I think this often gets lost in the conversation as well. Not only were we $90-some million over the cap, but one of the first things that could relieve the cap would have been what the 2021 league salary would have been, right? What the NFL gives you for that floor. We were all expecting it to be close to 200 million, right? I think the first estimate I heard was going to be like 196 million. And that's the figure I went off. I was like, oh, well, we're going to get some cap flexibility back, guys, because we're going to be at like 196, 196.5 for the, the league's cap. And then you can roll over your money from, 2020 into 2021, and then, you'll make some contract adjustments. That didn't happen. If you guys remember, that didn't actually happen. The 2021 league salary cap came in at 182.5. Guys, that's more than $10 million off of what we were anticipating. That's a huge figure. Huge, huge figure. We were off by 182.5 to, let's say, 196.5. I mean, come on, man. We're talking $14 million off. That's a big figure, guys. I'm sorry, but that's a huge, huge figure. Let's go past that, right? We're 90-some million over. We start getting some momentum because the league sets it to 182.5, right? And we're like, crap, man. What do we do? So let's compound kind of what's going on here. Howie Roseman goes into the Week 17 matchup in 2020 against Washington. And he makes a move on free, towards our 2021 cap that a lot of people didn't quite understand because, to be honest with you, it was some backroom negotiating and taking advantage of the league rules. It was not an easy concept to understand what he did. But essentially what he did is that you're allowed to adjust the contracts of guys in terms of their what will happen with their dead money prior to the end of the season, but you've got to get it done before the end of the season or else you cannot do what he did. So going into Washington, he takes Alshon Jeffries' contract, he takes Malik Jackson's contract, and he starts to manipulate the numbers. And what he did is he started converting some of that money away into like kind of option bonus money. So that way he could create a little bit of cap for 2021, knowing he's going to have to pay it, which we're going to pay in 2022, guys. That's part of our dead money for 2022. That's why Alshon and those guys are still on it. But what he did is he freed up some money to give us some immediate cap relief in 2021, right? And then past that, what he ended up doing, guys, with those contracts was it signified he was going to June 1st cut them. Why is that significant? Because when you June 1st cut somebody, you can take what is owed to the player in dead money. So these are the things that you guaranteed in the contract. These are things that you have already paid to the player that you just basically promised the league you would pay back over increments over years, right? So what he did basically is by June 1st cutting them, he allowed you to pay off some of it in 2021, some of it in 2022, which gave you that cap flexibility in 2021. Stick with me for a second, guys, because I'm going to tell you how smart of a move this was. And like I said, guys, we also have to keep in mind Howie's decisions prior to this caused this as well. It's both sides of things. You got to see it from both sides. The reason that was smart is, guys, is when you looked at from where we were, $90 million over the cap, when you looked at mid-March, so when the league calendar year officially started mid-March, we went from being $90 million over the cap to having the most cap flexibility in the NFC East by the league calendar year. Let that sink in. From 90 million over, us in New Orleans, we were like way over the cap, to being over 24 million back in cap relief by the start of the league calendar year. Guys, that was over $100 million worth of money he finagled. $100 million of money this dude finagled. Look, he caused it. You can't avoid that situation, guys. He absolutely caused it. But on the other hand, I have to say, boy, he came up with some creative ways of fixing it. And that's what makes him frustrating and brilliant at the same time. Because there are decisions from a personnel standpoint that's like, oh my God, he put us in these situations. But it's like, yeah, but man, he knows how to finagle the cap to get you out of the situations. Now, I will warn you guys about this. There's one very important point to make about dead money. And when you're doing things like, you know, restructuring contracts, because this is a very, very important point to make here. When you restructure a contract, please keep in mind, you are kicking the can down the road. You are deferring these payments to a later date. Here's what you're banking on. Okay, you're banking on that you can kick this stuff down the road long enough to where the league TV deals will kick in and elevate the cap up, so that way you never get caught like what happened to us in 2020. That's what you're banking on. If I'm being quite honest, guys, that is 1,000% what Howie is banking on, is that the cap will keep pace with what your dead money is, so that way you're never really truly caught in that weird situation like we found ourselves in. It doesn't always work out, guys. Sometimes you get caught with your proverbial pants down. Okay, so you do have to be careful with that kind of finagling kind of stuff. But let's just call a spade, guys. From 90 million over to 24.5 million of cap space, creating one of the most cap-friendly situations in the league by the league calendar year, and #1 in the NFC East. Now, it was more than that. I want to go past this. This isn't just about the cap. The one thing I think we all have been frustrated with Howie on is that we know that Howie can finagle numbers. There's no one in this room that's talking and is part of this conversation, is going to be watching this on the playback, who's not aware of the fact that Howie Roseman knows how to manipulate numbers. Everyone knows that. Because he's been here for so long, we've watched him do it for so long, you don't need a guy like me to tell you that. But I think where we all saw, like, okay, like what's bothering us is that Howie does not make the best decisions in the draft at times. And listen, I'm a realist, guys. I understand how front offices work and how the draft boards work. So I know that this is not solely Howie Roseman's fault what occurs sometimes in the draft, right? You have scouts in there, okay? You have advisors in there. You have coaches in there. You have an analytics department. Howie's job is to be the mitigator. He's to mitigate when there's differences of opinion between analytics, coaches, and scouts. That's Howie's job, to be honest. And I'll be straightforward with you. There are times that we have made mistakes. And you can even add in the medical department, right? Everyone always talks about DK Metcalf. I'm not buying this belief or this theory that somehow, some way, Howie Roseman in our scouting department and all these guys, the coaches, weren't aware that DK Metcalf wasn't a far more valuable player in terms of the skill set than JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I do think that's a little misleading sometimes when people say that, because I don't think that's what happened. I think this was Howie Roseman having his medical department in there, measuring that neck injury that he had from college and saying, he's cooked. Don't sign this guy. Don't draft this guy. You're in trouble. That's where Howie Roseman has made mistakes, right? Is that you got bad intel. And as a GM, you are only as good as your intel, but you got to rise above sometimes, man. Sometimes you got to know when to take a chance on a guy. And if you had taken a chance on DK Metcalf, you would have gotten paid very, very handsomely. Let's just say that, right? Okay. All right. One more thing I want to talk about, guys, in terms of, let's just elephant in the rooms. Let's get them out of the way, because it's going to make it easier to have the conversation if we just get these elephants in the room out of the way. So Justin Jefferson, right? And Jalen Reagor. Let's be honest here, guys. Let's just be honest. I was a huge Jalen Reagor guy. You guys know this going back. For some of y'all that have been with me since 2019, you guys know back in November and December of 2019, you started hearing Gate talk about this young prospect named Jalen Reagor who needed some work on his route running, but at the top of his route stem was something special in college films. But if you guys remember, when I did my draft profiles, I made 2 videos about Justin Jefferson. Okay? I don't make 2 videos about draft prospects. I just don't do it. I make one and I move on. I made 2 videos because of 2 reasons. Number one, I thought the Eagles were going to draft him. And I wanted to make sure the fan base was on board with this decision because this kid was phenomenal. But number 2, I wanted people to know that although I was a Reagor guy, I wanted people to understand Justin Jefferson was a better player. You could just see it in his route running. You could see it in the way that he utilized head fakes to set defenders up. He saw the game at a different level than other people do. And I was trying to get people to understand that point. Now, what does this have to do with Howie Roseman? Howie Roseman had a member of the coaching staff who told him that Justin Jefferson would only be a slot receiver, okay? And that Jalen Reagor is not as good a route runner right now, but his ceiling would be higher. That person was wrong. That was one of the things I'm alluding to here, to where he's not as the mitigator in the room, to where your scouts want one player, your coaches want another player. You're the mitigator. It's on you. You messed up, right? You messed up as the person who's supposed to mitigate those things. You made a mistake. And I don't think there's any way around that. He clearly made a mistake in that evaluation in who he trusted between coaching staff and scouting department. Scouts wanted Justin Jefferson. There was a member of the coaching staff. It doesn't take a whole lot to read between the lines, guys, to figure out who that person was who wanted Jalen Reagor. It was a mistake. It was a mistake, to be quite honest. I say that to preface this, guys. Howie Roseman did an incredible job in certain aspects. I have changed my opinion on one big factor. All the way up even to the beginning of this season, even after all this crap happened with Carson Wentz, when you guys asked me, was it a mistake, even though everything that happened with Carson Wentz, was it a mistake to draft Jalen Hurts? I would have told you truthfully and from the honest part of my soul, yes. Even though I still believe Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback and he can play in this league, thought it was a mistake. You don't pick backups in the second round. I got to be honest with you guys. I don't think it's necessarily worked out the way that they were intending, but hindsight is 20/20. And truth be told, Jalen Hurts and Howie Roseman have this football team in the playoffs. Carson Wentz and the Colts, which have a great coaching staff, have players there. It's not like they lack players in Indianapolis. They're watching the playoffs. And I understand that it's not as simple as that, Gate. You know, there's level of competition. I get it. But the bottom line is, in a rebuild or a retooling season, this general manager, this quarterback, this rookie head coach put this team in the playoffs. Howie deserves credit, guys. I'm sorry, but you have to credit Howie. Howie did an incredible job there. And I have to say it. Although I don't believe that you draft backup quarterbacks in the second round, I think it's a huge mistake. In hindsight, he made the right choice. He made the right choice because we were going to be on a collision course, it looked like, with Carson Wentz. And they clearly didn't trust a third contract for this guy after they gave him the extension. They clearly were already looking and like, okay, we're having issues here, so I'm not too sure this guy's going to get a third contract from this organization. We might want to have a backup plan in place. And I think that's honestly what happened. And saying all that, guys, he made a good choice there. That was the one choice I think out of that draft class where I say to myself, like, that was a smart choice. Fast forward to this past draft, 2021. I will say this. Howie Roseman did a good job mitigating the draft. Tom Donahue and the other guys, and I think this is something that gets mistaken by people. You have to understand that multiple people contribute to your draft board. Tom Donahue is the advisor that you brought in, he's worked inside of scouting before. He's been a GM. That's why you have that guy in the room. He helped set up the draft board, right? And they did a good job. Look at those first 3 picks, guys. Devontae Smith, pretty good. Hard to miss on top 10 picks, though, guys. But give Howie his credit. Give Howie his due. Howie worked the draft board to get the value. Set us up for 2022 draft as well. From 6 to 12 to jump it back up to 10. He worked the draft board masterfully. I got to give him credit where he's due credit. He's bad at, sometimes he's really bad at deciding who he should trust in terms of that draft board. Sometimes he makes mistakes and holds on to players entirely too long and gives them contracts that he should not hand to them. All that's true. But in the same breath, I have to give credit where credit is due. He worked that first round like a boss. I'm sorry. If you disagree, you don't know football. There's no way around that. Howie Roseman worked that draft board like a boss in 2021. Now, look at those first 3 picks, guys. Devontae Smith, no crap. Top 10 pick gate. Of course you're going to hit on that one. It's pretty easy to hit on top 10 picks. I hear you. I got you. Landon Dickerson. Boy, that was a risky pick, guys. Incredibly talented. A lot of medical red flags. He's been pretty good for the Philadelphia Eagles at left guard, hasn't he? Milton Williams. Let's get into it, guys. I'll be honest with you guys. On draft day, some of y'all know how I felt because some of you guys were in the live draft. It's funny because in the live draft, I was trying to calm everybody down in the room. And then when I expressed my opinions about what happened post-draft, I got caught in this crosswind between 2 parties here. I'll tell you this. People mistake what Tom Donahue was mad about. They don't understand the whole situation. And it's kind of funny because they're missing the forest for the trees. Tom Donahue was not mad about drafting Milton Williams. Tom Donahue helped build the board that had Milton Williams on it. Tom Donahue and Howie Roseman got at each other's throats a little bit in that draft room because of one reason. Howie Roseman believed he could still keep working that draft board, right? He could trade back a couple spots, gain more picks into the 6th round, and still get their draft target, right? Their draft target being the kid that plays nose tackle for Detroit right now, the former NC State guy. So that's what Howie believed. Tom Donahue, on the other hand, said, no, you shouldn't do that for a 6th round pick. The value is just not there. Well, you know what? We can say, Marky Max said, hi, you calm me down about Milton Williams. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I got caught in this weird twist of things here. You can say that on one hand, Tom Donahue was right. Like, you traded down and you lost your target. But on the other hand, let's talk about, hey, man, you just had your draft target taken. The rebound that Howie did to get Milton Williams, incredible. Incredible. Milton Williams, I told you guys, some of you guys were asking me live on draft night, and that's why I put it inside my reaction video. You guys were asking me live on draft night, Gate, did you have this dude rated as a top of the 3rd round pick? And I said, no. Everything I heard had him in the mid-4th into maybe sneaking into the late 3rd, but I did know that teams had this young man climbing their boards. They love this kid's athletic profile, but I shared with you guys. My fear is that he's not he's a guy when they double the interior defensive lineman in inside zone blocking schemes, he got pushed and washed right out of his gap responsibility. But the dude was an incredible pass rusher from the interior. He had a deadly initial pass rush move. And he was just beating dudes up that were not as talented as him. But like I told you guys, BYU and Marshall, which were really good offensive lines, he got washed out of the gap responsibilities. So I knew there were some limitations to his game, but I also knew that there was some utility and use to this young man. Those first 3 picks, guys, give Howie his credit. Like I said, it's not like he's necessarily the dude putting those guys on the board, but the decisions were there. And even in the moment where things could have gone wrong, and I'll tell you guys, I'll be straightforward with you guys. I didn't want Milton Williams in that spot. I wanted us to get a corner. I'll be dead honest with you guys. You guys know I wanted a corner at that spot. But give Howie credit. He made a mistake by trading down, trying to acquire the extra 6, thinking that their target would still be on the board, and it wasn't. It wasn't. It didn't pay off. But boy, the rebound was quite good, because how good has Milton Williams been for this Eagles from a situational pass rushing standpoint, right? He's even shown the ability, if you got a single block, if he's in a single gap responsibility where he's just got to play his gap and hold, and they're not going for that interior double, team on him, that he can actually play the run. He's pretty good. So, I mean, I got to give Howie credit for a 2021 draft in terms of what his role was. Even when things could have went sideways, they didn't. Add on Kenneth Gainwell, looks like a ball player, right? Teron Jackson looks like a ball player to me. I don't know what Zach McPherson's going to be, and we can criticize him for waiting entirely too long to take a corner, and we don't know what Zach McPherson's going to be. I'm not writing Zach McPherson off yet, though, guys. I mean, you got to give a young man an opportunity before you write him off. But sure, you know what I'm saying? Like, sure, we can criticize that aspect of things, right? How much did the extra 6th-round pick up? I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I thought he did a good job at rebounding for the nose tackle, and I was wrong. I thought that Marlon Tuipulotu was going to be really, really good in the NFL, and I got tricked by the Pac-12. I want my money back, Pac-12. Where's my guy, Burgang 31? I want my money back, Burgang, for the Pac-12, man. Y'all set me up with Marlon Tuipulotu. I thought they did a good job of getting a guy who I consider Milton Williams to be more of a Malik Jackson type defensive player, right? A guy that's athletic enough to play defensive end, or a guy that in a single gap scheme where his his role is just to beat a guy and put pressure on the quarterback, he can do it. I think he's more of that kind of role. If you slimmed him down, he could play the Brandon Graham role, right? To where Vinny Curry role, to where you have an edge rusher who's a really good run defender. It's a 5 technique, and you can bounce him inside for an interior pass rush. I thought Marlon Tuipulotu would be that guy that you got him in here because his back injury took him from being a 3rd, 4th round evaluation down to a 6th round evaluation. I thought we did so much better than what the reality was because Marlon Tuipulotu didn't work. But I got to be real, guys. Real has to be real, all right? You cannot be faking the moment. Howie did better than what people thought. We got an opportunity, guys. Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts have us in a phenomenal situation to capitalize. Does anyone honestly disagree with that? I mean, come on. We have 3 first-round picks. I'm not saying we're going to use all 3 first-round picks in 2022, but we got 3 first-round picks on a playoff team. If you look at top 100 picks, I'm pretty sure we got like 5 top 100 picks this draft. I mean, I think we're in a very good situation. I don't think our cap situation is going to be as good as some people are suspecting, but it's certainly not $90 million over the cap. You know what I mean? We're definitely going to have a ton of cap room come 2023 and 2024. I think this organization is in a very, very good place. And Howie Roseman, Jalen Hurts, and Nick Sirianni deserve a ton of credit for putting us in that situation. And by the way, our owner, Jeffrey Lurie, he deserves it too. He deserves it as well because, man, does that guy know how to hire coaches. Jeffrey Lurie is bad at a lot of things. We didn't realize that he was this involved in things, right? I mean, we kind of learned that over the last couple of years. But I will say this, man, that guy knows how to find coaches. He's really, really good at finding coaches. All right, guys, let's read some comments, guys. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wait 20 minutes to read comments, buddy. I appreciate y'all, man. Ben Adams said, yo, I think he did save it. He did. He set the house on fire, but he also found the hose, right? The Bull Philly said, bro, the title is so on point. Thank you to Bull Philly. I appreciate that, man. Marky Mac, what's good, man? How you doing, sir? Messiah, how you doing, sir? How's Ray doing this morning? Eagles Uncensored Podcast said, good morning, Gates. God bless, brother. Hope the family is well. Respect to you, sir. Thank you, Eagles Uncensored. I appreciate that, buddy. Sean Stepp, what's good, buddy? He said he still whiffed on Harris, Wilson, and Kerrigan. We could use better players for this run. I disagree to an extent, Sean. You can only do so much with the money you have. And Harris and Wilson have experience inside of the system. Kerrigan, you can argue it was a whiff, but at the same time, I don't think it's a whiff. I just think that he didn't, I thought people were overvaluing. I think if you want to say he whiffed on somebody, you can say that no matter how you shape it, I don't really think he whiffed because he didn't overpay for anybody. He didn't overpay for Steven Nelson, even though he's average. He didn't overpay for Harris, although he's average. He didn't overpay for Wilson, although he was below average. Kerrigan, he didn't overpay for him. You know what I mean? So I have a different opinion on that one. I will say that we didn't necessarily have an impact guy. And I do think Anthony Harris is a little better than he's been given credit for. He's just not a difference maker. But he's better than what people are giving him credit for. The Bull Philly said, Rager was definitely your guy. You definitely sold me on him. My bad, Bull. My bad, man. Azir, what's good, buddy? He said, break it down, fam. The Eagles are in a better position than they were a year ago. That's on Howie. 100% Superhero 18. He deserves credit. Sam, the artist formerly known as S4L. What's good, buddy? He said, well said. Sayson, what's good, man? He said the only thing Howie did was appease a disgruntled player by trading him away and stealing draft picks from the Colts. Jalen still should have never been drafted in the second. I disagree with that perspective now. He absolutely should have been drafted in the second round. Because if you don't have that guy, the house is on fire right now. We're in trouble. Marky Max said, you calmed me down about Milton Williams. I remembered, man, people were mad during the live draft. People were furious we took Milton Williams in the third round. I remember, guys. The Bull Philly said, Gate, football knowledge and IQ is ridiculous. Can listen to my guy all day. Appreciate you, buddy. That's a heck of a compliment. Superhero 18 said, as a rotational defensive end, Milton's been a good addition to the squad this year. I agree. He really has been. In that role, he's pretty good in that role. Superhero 18 said, I also think our 3 first-rounders will allow us to address the things we didn't get, like cornerback and other things. 100%. Sam said, what did you think of the moves to pick up Gowan and Vincent Jr.? I don't know, C-, C. I mean, I think they're just kind of throwing darts at the board at corner position. They clearly had guys graded that they wanted in that back half of the draft, and they couldn't get them, so they just traded out, some, 5th, 6th rounders to acquire guys. You got to go back to Josiah Scott. We traded a 5th round pick for Josiah Scott. I think that was the first domino to really fall. It was like a 5th or 6th. And then we traded for Tay Gowan. We got Kerry Vincent Jr., Mark McCain. We kept picking up off of Denver's practice squad every time they cut him. So they're definitely trying to throw darts at the board, hoping something sticks there. Fireman 2531 say, hey, play aggressive. James J30 said the Eagles needed a decent backup quarterback as Wentz kept getting hurt. I agree, but I don't think you take a backup quarterback in the 2nd round. That was one thing I did disagree with Howie on. I will say that to Saison's point and some other people's point, I think the point they're trying to make is that he only lucked into the circumstance. Howie lucked himself into the circumstance. But in hindsight, it was an incredible pick. Kavo, what's good, man? I've been telling everyone before the season started, if we overachieve the slightest bit, the East will be in trouble. And I always defended Roseman and Laurie. The Bull Philly said, do we draft another running back? If you can find a good contact bounce back that is maybe just a little bit more athletically gifted than a guy like, I hate to say it because I'm a big Jordan Howard fan, and I love Jordan Howard in this system. But if you can find a guy that's a Jonathan Taylor, bargain basement type, you're not going to get Jonathan Taylor, guys. But if you can get a guy that's, saying, in respectable terms of that, I'd say go for it. Absolutely go for it. Marky Mack said, my biggest concern for this draft is how are they going to shape the defense? Great question, Marky Mack. I wish I had the answer. I don't know. To be honest. I have no clue. Kivo said, I hope Milton Williams gets an extended role this game. With Brady being an immobile quarterback, we can line up 3 defense tackles to rush the passer and stuff the run this week. What I would love to see them do, Kivo, with Milton Williams is to be more versatile in his alignments. What I mean by that is this. You need to knock Brady. You got to make him uncomfortable. You got to knock him off his spot. And the way you do that is by collapsing the middle of the pocket. What I would love them to do is to get creative with how they use Milton Williams. And I know Milton Williams is not a true nose tackle. That's not what I'm advocating for, guys. But if you use him in something that's called a tilted zero shade front, so where his only job is he's tilted towards the center, and his job is to beat height. Once that snap comes, you beat Jensen off of the line, and you disrupt the pocket. I think you can knock Brady off a spot. I would love to see them get creative like that. But they have not done it this season, so I can't good faith project to you guys that's going to happen. But it is something I would love to see happen. Genetic Freak said, I completely agree. Messiah said, I looked at the numbers of Milton Williams before I said anything, and I was just looking at tape, and I really thought he was good. Honestly, couldn't find the problem until you helped me understand that. It's not, no guy's going to be perfect in the 3rd round. You know what I'm saying? Like, Messiah, you're going to definitely have some things you have to clean up as a prospect in the 3rd round, but the guy was really athletically gifted. He climbed boards for a reason. That guy went from a late 4th round pick in early April to the time of the draft in late April, from a late 4th round pick to an early 3rd round pick. That's because people started looking at the measurables and the testing, and they started running his film, and they said, yeah, he's got some work to do in run support, but that dude's initial pass rush move is next level. The Bull Philly said, and do we still need linebackers? Probably the Bull Philly, probably. Natiro said, Williams, Sweat, Mulata, and Maddox are proof day 3 picks should always be athletic guys with high upside instead of the more refined players with high floors. It's not a bad take on that, Natiro. You got a second from the Bull Philly. Second your motion. Superhero 18 said, well, even before last year, there were signs of Carson's regression. I think one way of looking at it is this. He's your guy until he shows you he's not the guy. Why invest in someone not performing? Fair. Scotty said, Gate, be honest with me, my man. Do we get shot at winning this game, like, say, 3 out of 10? Oh, like, what's the – I'll say this, Scotty. The Bucs should be favored because the Bucs are the defending champs. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Anyone who's ever played sports, Scotty, you know how it is, man. You can't beat your chest until you beat that team. That team's the defending champs. You gotta beat the champs, and you gotta beat the champs at home to make it worse. I will say that we have caught a very, very favorable matchup here, Scotty, and the fact that they are without two big contributors on the outside, and the fact that AB left the team. I'm not gonna get into all that craziness there. And on top of AB leaving the team, Chris Godwin tore the ACL. Man, that helps you a lot. Now, Gannon's got a lot to prove defensively against good competition. We haven't seen it yet. I mean, I don't know how he's going to react to Brady. I think the key here is you got to knock Brady off his spot. They got to find ways of being creative and getting Brady off his spot. What are they going to do? They haven't showed yet from a defensive standpoint. I mean, I'll give you some things defensively, Scotty. I would love to see Gannon do. I'm not saying you go heavy into this, but you do it on occasion to mix things up and give people different looks. We played a lot of traditional nickel. Why not play some big nickel? Why not play some big nickel and shake things up with your personnel? Bring Epps down in the box, right? Bring Epps down in the box. Move Avonte Maddox from nickel up to free safety, so that way you get a more rangy player to make it harder on people, especially if you're going to shade towards, Mike Evans' side. If you're going to shade your coverage that side, use a guy like Avonte Maddox who can get over the top quick, right? Do some things you haven't seen yet. Okay, I'm not advocating you blitz heavy at Brady because Brady beats the blitz. Everyone knows that about Brady. He's very good against the blitz. You can bring 5-man pressures, though. Avery. I would take Avery and Kerrigan, and I know people are down on Kerrigan, but put them in a joker, a stand-up pass rushing situation where they're looping onto a guard. That's a matchup I want. I want Avery or Kerrigan lined up on the guard with that guy trying to match them from the athletic point, challenging the A and B gap. There are things that we can do to mix it up and give different looks, right? I already talked about tilting and zero shading a guy like Milton Williams to beat Jensen off the snap to disrupt the middle of the pocket. There are ways of doing these things that we haven't seen this season that I was hoping to see. I'm hoping Gannon has something up his sleeve that maybe I'm not even thinking about here. But, it's going to be about how much we want it and what we bring in terms of disguise and what we can do. Genetic Freak 84 said, the fan base wanted Sirianni fired by midseason, and he was the laughing stock of the NFL. And then the Eagles beat a bunch of crappy injury-ridden C-19 teams, and now Sirianni is a good hire. Sirianni's a great hire, Genetic Freak. You're missing the forest for the trees, man. The Bull Philly said, I think it's pretty even. Sirianni beating Brady will enshrine him in Philadelphia football. Forever Sturdy said, good morning, Steve. It's funny because I literally just told my wife this morning how quiet the Fire Howie Roseman chants have been as of late. That's a great point, Forever Sturdy. And that was one thing that someone kept asking me about that. And I said, I'm not calling for Roseman to be fired, but I'm genuinely shocked that the media at certain times during the season didn't go crazy about talking about his contract situation. It's really been kind of quiet. I mean, they talked about it early in the offseason. The season kicked in, they were more so focused on Sirianni and Gannon and Hurts, and Howie's just kind of went underneath the radar. I thought there would be more noise around that. Not that I'm projecting that would happen. I'm just saying I definitely thought there would be more noise around the fact that he is up on a contract here. But it's been pretty quiet. I think we all know he's probably getting a contract. Caleb said, you think we should run some 5 down against Bucs, help get pressure? Yeah, I mean, I think situationally, you got to be careful, right? I mean, Brady beats blitzes. So, yes, when you get into a 3rd and long, I think you should try to speed Brady up. You do what you can do to knock him off his spot. You might not get him to, he's pretty good. He's going to process quickly. It's hard to sack Brady. That doesn't mean you can't knock him off his spot. You know what I mean? So I would try to knock him off his spot. Romeo said, do you think we will go after Allen Robinson and Calvin Ridley? Hard to say, man. I can't say with any kind of certainty what they'll do, Romeo. Allen Robinson, my fear is he could get quite expensive. But I can tell you that Allen Robinson is, 6'3", 220-ish, a great contested catch guy. He led the league in contested catches in 2020. It's hard to judge these Chicago guys just because things have been so bad in Chicago. You just don't know. I don't know how much football life he's got left, but I mean, if that guy's got 3 to 5 more years left, yeah, he's going to be a good player. It's just a matter of the money. How much money are you going to pay for that skill position? Calvin Ridley, I do think that if you can get an outside chance at acquiring him, you got him on a 5th-year option at $11 million. That's what he'll be on next year. If you can convince him to endear himself to the city and just love this destination and this spot, maybe that's a guy that you get lucky with on the 5th-year option, and you can extend him for, you're not going to get him for $10 million a season. Like he's going to want more money than that, more than likely, in this contract. But maybe you get him for 14 or 15 million. So just under the market what he probably would get because he likes playing here. That's a potential possibility, but I do think that I'm more in favor of getting a mid-tier guy like a Mike Williams. But you got to have A, B, C, D, E, and F in terms of your options because you don't know where guys' interests are and what you can and can't land. So, you do have to have those backup possibilities. Eagles Uncensored said, Gates, I got a question for you. In your opinion, who is the best candidate for our CB2 next year? McPherson? I mean, maybe you give him a look. I don't know that he's done enough yet to necessarily warrant that. I would probably definitely be in the drafting a guy. I'm not saying you have to go first round guys, but I do think that you got to spend a top 100 pick on a cornerback. Maybe try to work your way into the market of a trade market. Maybe try to work your way in terms of a veteran and free agency. You better shore it up. I think you need to have more options than just McPherson. But, I mean, hard to say, Eagles Uncensored. That's a difficult question to answer, honestly. L. Clark said, he really did save his job. Dang it. He probably doesn't draft as well as our average knowledgeable fan, but we also had no idea who Mulatto was, and that has to count for something. Yeah, he's been really good at the back half of the draft. I mean, Kelsey, Mulatto, a couple of guys, even going – well, there's some guys I can't give him credit for because he wasn't here as the GM. He was more in an accounting role, but he did work for a little while inside the personnel department. But, we've had a good run of identifying guys in the 4th round and back. You go back to Todd Harriman's, I think was a 4th-round pick. Trent Cole, I think, was a 5th-round pick. So, I mean, the Eagles have been pretty good even before Howie was the GM at doing that. So, yeah, we've definitely paid dividends. Or Gowan. I like Gowan, man, but the one thing that bothers me about Gowan and projected him to be a starter is you're talking about a guy that only played 1 year at UCF. He opted out of the 2020 season. And then before UCF, he played at a community college. So, his level of competition isn't the greatest to judge from. So I don't know exactly where his development is, Eagles Uncensored, to be fair. I don't know that I would go into a season like with that guy is you know what I mean? Like he'd have to earn it. He'd have to beat somebody out, in my opinion. Saison says, I think we would have still gotten Jalen in the 3rd, could have had Jeremy Chin and Hurts. Maybe. I mean, there were other teams interested in the 3rd round was where guys were looking at him. I think what the calculation was, and I don't know, I'm not in the room, guys, to be fair. I think the calculation was if you didn't take him right there in the 2nd before you could pick in the 3rd, he was going to get taken. I think it's how they were kind of looking at it. Forever Sturdy said Wentz is starting his malarkey in Indianapolis as we speak. Go check Twitter. I'm over that, man. I'm glad that we don't have to deal with that anymore. L. Clark said Parsons is a head case, great player. Got some issues off the field. He's a Me Too case waiting to happen. I don't know, guys. I don't know the guy personally. If you know, he was completely off of some teams' boards. Gate, a personal question. Do you ever see yourself working for something like Bleeding Green Nation, et cetera, or build your own brand? I'm working on building my own thing, Natiro, is what I'm trying to do. Gannon needs to be fired if he gives up 30 points this game. I disagree a little bit there, Takeem, because of the level of competition. I think 30 points that's a little hard to make the case. Now, if you get beat the way Dallas just beat us, our backups last week, if Tampa Bay beats our starters that way, then I think there clearly would be conversations in there. But if you can keep that team to under 35 points, you got a shot at winning the game if your offense is on. Forever Sturdy, real talk, bro. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure of that whole situation, guys. I don't want to speak out of term because I don't know the situation. Messiah said, yeah, I've never seen him play big nickel like that. I've seen it definitely a couple times, but I really do agree with bringing Marcus Epps down in the box and letting them be more of a Kevon Wallace. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see something like that, Messiah. I don't know if he's going to do it. You know what I mean? But Tayson said, yeah, big nickel wouldn't be a bad move. Vester Lettuce Choke said, Gate City and Hydro Freak are my two favorite Eagles YouTubers. Appreciate that, man. Allie, what's up? Said, interesting in the in regards to the big nickel. What about Epps deep in Ant and McLeod at nickel? You can do both ways. I'm saying that on special occasions, Allie, if you're leaning that safety, right? If you're shading the safety towards, if you're going to shade him towards coverage, right? I think that a guy like, Maddox can give you a lot of speed over the top. But yes, I mean, in your standard big nickel where you're not, because you're not going to completely take Maddox out of your game plan. You could definitely do, Anthony Harris is pretty good around the line of scrimmage. You could definitely do McLeod on one side. You could definitely do, Marcus Epps on the other side and bring Anthony Harris down into the box. I definitely think that you can do that as the tradition base set of how you do big nickel. But, I definitely think that in a game where you got Mike Evans on the other side and this team likes to get vertical on you, having a guy with the athletic profile of Avonte Maddox play over the top, he's not a big guy, but he can get up there. And if you just teach him, like, look, man, I just need you to do one thing for me. Play through the hands. When he elevates up, I got a corner there. I just need you to play through the hands. Because I know that he can get there in time. Just a matter of, can you get him up to play through the hands? Superhero 18 said, I also want to thank you, Steve, for your channel and its impact. Like, my first love was football before loving b-ball, and I didn't think I'd find that love I had for NFL until your channel. Oh, I appreciate that, man. Thank you, Superhero 18. That's a big compliment. L. Clark said, bottom line is that we need our interior D-line to ball out. Yeah, that's very true. You make Brady uncomfortable and collapse that pocket, and his lack of athleticism becomes apparent. We need to hit him all day. Yeah. The Bull said, how much gas does Fletcher Cox have left? I don't know, the Bull. It's an excellent question. I don't know. He's played a lot of snaps this season, so I definitely think it was a smart move to rest him last week. So having 2 weeks off towards the end of the season, I think we'll play. It'll be a very smart decision down the stretch of these football games. I definitely believe that, the Bull Philly. I think it was a very smart decision because, Fletch is getting up there in age. And while Fletch may not have the same impact he once had as a pass rusher, he's still good. He's, you still can't just ignore him. But he's not that same guy anymore. What he can do, and we saw this against Washington, is keep the focus and keep guys engaged in the game. Where he kept telling him, stop taking this team lightly. You don't know the NFC East. Yeah, he told them young bucks, you don't know the NFC East like I know it. Do not take this team lightly. Eagles Uncensored said, I asked this question yesterday. I want to ask you, instead of trading our pick in this year's draft for a pick in 2023, how would you feel if we trade our first and like a third, fourth, or fifth rounder as well for Malik Mack? Hard to say, Eagles Uncensored. I have to really think about that one, and I'd have to break down film and really see what I think about fits in terms of adding people. I will say that I think this team definitely needs an impact pass rusher. It needs somebody that can disrupt and hurt people badly. And I don't think we necessarily have that guy. I think Josh Sweat has moments and flashes of it. I think when Javon Hargrave is really on his game, he's a complete disruptor from the interior pocket. And I think Milton Williams is a unique pass rusher. With that said, could we use a top-level pass rusher? I believe so. I think I would probably set a precedent on finding that guy. Now, it is going to be tough to get it. It's going to be really difficult to climb up to get an Aiden Hutchinson. You might be going number 1 overall. And you're just not going to climb from, even though we're in a good spot, you're not going to climb more than likely from the 14th and 15th pick without packaging like several first-round picks up to go get that. And that one's probably not going to happen, so I can understand looking outside for those kind of players. But it's hard to say. Sam the Artist, formerly known as S4L, said, I think we talked about it at the time, but at worst, Hurts was a gadget player and backup injury insurance for Wentz, but the 2020 season showed that he doesn't have the confidence to seize the job. Francis Christian said, can we take the ergo out of Raymond James Stadium with a consistent pass rush and aggressive O-line play? The guys that need to make plays make plays. Devontae Smith over 100 yards Receiving, I think he meant. My take. What's up, Francis? I'll say this: the matchup. So the matchup that we're going to see. Sorry, guys, I don't mean to shake the camera. The matchup we're going to see from the lines, both set of lines, from offensive line and defensive line. Tampa Bay and Philly, we both have very, very good lines. Vita Vea is a heck of a football player, guys. I'm not going to take that away from them. Ali Marpet, Jensen, Tristan Wirfs, their other guard they have, I can't remember his name right now, it's slipping my mind. Those dudes are ball players. There's a really good offensive and defensive line we're going against. Our offensive line and our defensive line is not chump change either. So, I mean, I'm excited to see that because it's a throwback to the way football used to be played. It's going to be kind of exciting to watch that type of game again. But I expect a physical football game. I expect a really physical football game. Forever Sturdy said, yeah, I believe he definitely get another contract with us for sure. Matt Hatter, what's good, buddy? He says Dallas has only beaten 2 teams with a winning record and played the same teams and quarterbacks towards the end of the year, but they get a pass. Well, I mean, some of the reporting's bullcrap too, because I just watched one of the shows, and maybe it was recorded before the end of Sunday's games, but they were saying that, here's what I don't like. They said that we haven't beaten a team that was over 500, but, you know, teams that are 500 or better, you know, we're like, I think they said we were like 9-1 or something along those lines. I'm going to call bullcrap on that because, number one, the Saints finished over 500, so that was clearly a win against the 500 team. But number two, shouldn't it matter when you played a team and what the record was when you played them? Because Denver had just stomped Dallas, and they were a winning football team when we played them. I think they're trying to be fancy with the way they're looking at stuff. And the other thing I'll say about that point, guys, that always bothers me when people say that is, number one, you play the competition that's in front of you. But number two, like, it just doesn't, like, no crap. Most teams with winning records beat teams that didn't have it. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird the way they try to stress some of these things. Francis said Michael Gallup would have been perfect. He's a separator. Michael Gallup is pretty good on things like crossers and things like that I think are a staple of this offense. I do think Michael Gallup is more than just a vertical threat. I think he would be really good at slant routes. He's had some success at times running slant routes, so an in-breaking route like a slant route, out routes, especially vertical routes, and then more in particular to crossing routes. Your drags, your crossers, your stuff like over routes, that kind of stuff. He would have been pretty good for that. Wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr. is a cheaper option in free agency. Takeem said, cornerback Ahmad Garner is our CB2 in 2022. Nelson is gone after this year, and McPherson is a special teamer at best. You better hope not, man, because McPherson is still going to be dependent upon pass like going into 2023. Mandel said, if you want a real wide receiver improvement, spend money. You got to be careful, man. It's not always that simple, Mandel. I mean, we spent a lot of money in 2012 on that dream team. That didn't work out for us. It's not always that easy. Sometimes it's got to do with scheme fit. Sometimes it's got to do with projecting that guy going into the future. You're not always what you've been in the past. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. Messiah said that 6th-round pick that he traded for that everybody thought was stupid is Teron Jackson. So it's 50-50 for me. Teron Jackson, I was pretty high on. I liked him a lot coming out of the draft. One of my one of the guys who contributes to this channel a lot, Jalen Williams, and I, we kind of went back and forth a little bit on Teron Jackson because I was really high on him, and Jalen thought he still had a lot to work on as a pass rusher. And man, he gave me a big prop for this season, man. I really did appreciate Teron Jackson showing out the way he did, because I was definitely concerned when Jalen wasn't sold on him, because I know Jalen understands defensive line play. McPherson have to try and get Sauce. Forever Sturdy said, is it just me or is Quez Watkins a top-tier stud who doesn't get enough shine and needs to be incorporated more in our offense? Well, especially for what we had at the wide receiver room. I think they need to find ways of using Gainwell in that role. I really like the fact that they just signed Jason Huntley to the roster. I think that those guys, you got to find ways of utilizing athletic guys, because, we just don't have nuanced route runners. And to be quite honest with you, Kenneth Gainwell might be one of the better route runners. Greg Ward deserves more run as a wide receiver. I do think that you're right, that Quez Watkins deserves more targets. Like, teams are going to start figuring it out. They're going to start shading their coverage towards Devontae. They're going to start bracketing Goddard. And somebody else is going to have to make a play eventually. These are playoff teams. They're going to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's going to have to step up. Brian, what's good, buddy? He said, what up, Steven? Really appreciate your view on the Birds. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. BMO Careful said, yo, what up, everybody? Tyzon said McPherson probably just needs more time, actual reps and games. He had good plays. He also lost some plays. Yeah, Tyzon, I will warn people to not take too much of what you saw from the Dallas game and judge McPherson on it. That's not a fair way of judging him. Because number one, you got to understand that they played a vanilla scheme. And yes, there was communication issues, but you normally don't have four guys that are inexperienced in your secondary all at the same time. So of course that's going to cause, communication errors. But on top of that, they were just running a lot of like cover 3 and a lot of cover 2. And they were just, Dallas was smart. They were just going to, okay, you're going to run that. Then we're going to run cover 3 beaters and we're going to run 4 vert concepts on you all day. Some kind of an alteration to 4 verts. It's not always 4 verts, but it's an alteration to that concept. And that's what they did. They just basically said, okay, you want to split the field up into thirds, then we'll give you something you should look at in terms of quarters. And that's not fair to judge those guys on that. So I do think that we might be getting a little too crazy about judging that. But, McPherson's had issues in preseason. Then he looked pretty good at times when he came in for Steven Nelson, to be honest. I thought he showed more athleticism. But, yeah, it's hard to say, guys. It's still pretty early for that stuff. Irish Steve, what's good, buddy? He said, hey, good morning, and hello, my fellow Eagle fans. And what's up, Steve? I'm doing well, Irish Steve. Hope you are as well. It's weird to keep saying Steve. There's a lot of Steves. Messiah said, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I know a lot of Steelers fans that were looking at Jalen Hurts like 3 or 4 picks after ours. So I don't think that we would have gotten Jeremy Chin and Hurts. I think you're right, Messiah. I think somebody would have taken him as well before we got a chance for that to happen. David Berry said that's an indie problem. Very true. It is now, right? Matt Hatter said Howie cleaned up all of Chip's mistakes and got us in the Super Bowl in 2 years. Yeah, everything's so complicated, right? Because one thing I'll say about Chip Kelly is, man, what he did with sports science was revolutionary, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. Now, you can say, like, yeah, did Chip do that, or did he just copy a platform that he learned in Oregon? Either way, he brought it to us, and he brought it to the league. But past that, man, he made really smart hires from the coaching staff perspective. And he did a really good job with that. Now, his system, it wasn't that great. The gambling hippie said, I think we should take Dalvin Cook's brother. If he's anything like Dalvin, it would be a steal from where it sounds like he could go if he goes into the draft. I'd have to look at film on him, gambling hippie. I really don't know that much about him. Natira said, who's the bigger problem, Mike Evans or Gronk? Gronk said back-to-back 100-yard receiving games. I would say right now Gronk is probably the bigger issue, to be quite honest. But Mike Evans is no slouch. But I do think Mike Evans is dealing with some injury stuff himself. So I don't know if Mike Evans is going to be 100% out there. So we'll have to see. I mean, this late in the season, I guess you can make the argument like, no crap, Gate. Name a player who's not dealing with some form of an injury. I hear you, but it seems like that they recently have kind of updated and talked about Mike Evans having a little bit of an issue with an injury. So we'll see. I mean, he's clearly going to play in this game, but maybe that takes a little bit off of his game. Who knows? Kivo said, I saw Rager line up in the backfield more in that Dallas game. Look, use the guys to whatever you can get out of them, right? At this point, stop trying to be fancy. Just use the guys for whatever production they can give you. And that's what I'm saying. If Rager could give you production on those jet sweeps, if he can give you production from the backfield, if he can give you production on the angle routes coming out of the backfield, then use them. Use them in that role. If Kenneth Gainwell can give you way more production from the slot and then Quez Watkins from the flanker role, then use them that way. Like, if you got to use Rager in the backfield to get explosion, if you got to use Gainwell in the slot to get explosion, and you got to use Quez so that way you can get a guy that can potentially earn targets if they start shading their coverage towards Devontae Smith, use what you got. You know what I'm saying? Just use what you have at your disposal. That's really what they need to do. Kivo said, I say we throw a shot play to Quez in the first play. It might just hit. Is this big play Slay's first playoff game? That's an excellent question, Chaos. I really don't know because he was playing in Detroit, so it is possible that it is. But I thought they did get in. I thought they got in 1 year under who was it they had there? They had Caldwell, Jim Caldwell. I thought he was there with Jim Caldwell, right? Because I think early in his career, Jim Caldwell had them in the playoffs. So he might have played really early in his career in the playoffs. Superhero 18 said, I actually think the key to the game is to do what we've been doing, running the football and winning the time of possession. We want to limit the amount of time Brady can hurt us. That's a very smart take on that. Superhero 18, I agree with what you're saying there. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. It makes it easier to do situational things to come after people. I agree. And going back to this point here at Chaos, but when you said, is this Slade's first playoff game, which I do think he played early in his career in the playoffs, but I don't know that to be 100% factual. Talking about coaches and making rash decisions. How bad was the decision to fire Jim Caldwell for Detroit? What have you done post Jim Caldwell? Sometimes, man, sometimes organizations got to learn the hard way, I guess. Forever Sturdy said, I believe we have broken out the German Shepherd mask. Watch, fly, Eagles fly. We're coming with the underdog mask. Does anyone remember the cartoon Underdog? Michael Irvin. Interesting spelling. Ridley should be priority number one for the offense. If they're really serious, my bad, about building around Jalen, perfect addition in my honest opinion. Howie shouldn't be cheap with it here. It's not necessarily about being cheap per se, right? You got to be careful still, though, because you don't want to – eventually you will have to pay a quarterback. You know what I mean? So you have to be kind of careful with that. But, yes, I do think that you should get a guy can separate and win in the league. Because that's the problem. We've taken a lot of chances in the draft, and outside of Devontae Smith, we've missed a lot in the draft. Quez was a good find. Devontae Smith was a good find. And I know he hasn't got a lot of play this year, and I know that the momentum is maybe stacked against him, but I do think that John Hightower is better than people think. He's got to get a little bit of that heart back because, there were some times he was looking down coverage. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to keep it 100% honest about that. But in terms of him being able to separate against coverage, I trust Hightower to separate more than I do Rager at this point in their careers. Now, I'm not saying that's where it will end, but at this point in his career, I do kind of trust Hightower to separate more than I would trust Rager to, especially against man. And Hightower is like, He's a light guy. He's not a big dude. Eagles Uncensored said, Khalil Mack, sorry, phone changed the name. No, you're all good, Eagles Uncensored. I know exactly who you were talking about. Lane Fame TV said, trade Ben Simmons for Jordan Poole in a first. if they'll take him. Ojabo is the guy we need, but I don't know if he will be there at 15. Maybe. But going from 15 to 10, more doable than 15 to like 2 or 1. You know what I mean, Natira? Mandel Harvey said, I'm seeing G League players who can run, jump, and catch. They should have the basketball skills for the NBA. Lots of hungry athletes like Mulata that ain't on football fields. Yeah, but Mulata was a 4-year process, Mandel. Got to keep that in mind. That wasn't done overnight. And not everybody's going to be Jordan Mulata. I would think that a better point to try to make the case you're making here, Mandel, would be to look at Antonio Gates. RJR, what's good, man? He said, morning, Steve. What's your thoughts on the linebacker from Utah? If you haven't checked him out, he looks tough. I like him. Good athlete. Definitely has good range of motion. Can definitely move around the field. I don't know it's hard to project impact yet, guys. I got to see a lot more film before I start saying a guy's an impact player. I only see a few guys so far that I would call a true impact player. But you don't always need an impact player. Sometimes you need a guy that can play a role and play it proficiently and help you build something special. Cree Godbolt said, JJ and Jalen will have big games against Tampa on Sunday. Cree, if you're right, I will remember this comment and I'll shout you out for that, bro. If you were right on that one. Sharif said, I noticed the Jets and Carolina's running backs had some success against the Bucs, both in the passing and the running game. Saison said, just got to say, Gay, out of the 6 Eagles content creators I follow, you top tier, bro. You're not just a fan. You actually know football. Oh, and go Dogs. Thank you, Saison. I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Your compliments mean a lot, guys. Jose, what's good, buddy? He said McPherson still got some development potential. I wouldn't write him off as a special teamer only just yet. I agree, Jose. I agree. It's not fair to judge him solely off of what we saw from last, Saturday's game, because that was a lot to do with the vanilla scheme we were running too. It was a little bit of everything kind of mixed in. Chaos the Filthy says, I want that defensive tackle from Georgia. Isn't he the guy that's I think I know who you're talking about. He's the real big dude, right? Heavy set guy. I think the issue you might have there, Chaos, is that he's going to have to get in a little bit better football shape for the NFL. If we're on the same page with who we're thinking here. We might be thinking of different guys, though. Cree said, Philly will not keep all 3 first-round picks. They will trade 2 of them for future first and third-round picks in 2023. I don't know if they'll trade 2 out of the 3, but I do think that they'll either move up or move back at some point in the draft, either for 2023 or even in 2022. I do agree with that part of it there, Cree. I think you're right there. Just because it's really expensive to sign 3 first-round picks. It costs some serious money. Sharif said, would love to see a lot more 21 and 22 personnel. Yeah, me too, Sharif. You know, I've been calling for that crap for like 2 years now. Look, he did play a little bit of it at times. I definitely think that there are opportunities with guys like Reagor to – it's not truly 21 and 22 personnel because Reagor is not truly a running back, but it gives you that versatility, right, to kind of be in spirit. That's kind of what you're doing, right? You know, I definitely think that you can use guys to get those kind of matchups, you know, use a guy like Gainwell, which would make it truly 21 and 22. So if you got Howard and you got Gainwell in the game, like, you know, definitely I think you can do some stuff. Brian said, do you think we will cut bait with Ragular and JJ? Reagor, I doubt it. I don't think we're going to cut bait yet with Reagor, Brian, but the way I would treat Reagor is, hey, man, you were a first-round pick. We gave you 2 goes at starting on the team. We're not counting you out. We're not saying that you won't start in 2022, but you're going to have to earn it because we're bringing in competition. We're bringing in somebody that can get separation. If you want your starting spot, you're going to have to take it or else you're going to get buried on the depth chart. With JJ, they might possibly move on. I think at this point with JJ, he's got to truly earn his way onto the roster, and I don't think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt if there's a tie. Say things are close between 2 guys. I think there's far more likelihood in 2022 he gets cut. Forever Sturdy said McPherson is a rookie still figuring out the NFL style of play. Give him some more time to develop. Sharif said, how much will Arcega be missed in the blocking game? I think it depends on what they can do with guys like Jack Stoll. I think it depends on, you know, look, I'll be honest with you, Sharif. People may not want to hear this, but Reagor has been good at blocking. I'm not saying that's what you use a first-round pick for, and it's certainly what you don't even use a second-round pick for. But there are guys that can block, to be quite honest. We'll have to see. I mean, those things are hard to say, you know, Sharif, to be honest. Who knows? Marky Max said, Anatir, why do you think Ojabo will be a good fit for the Eagles? Are you projecting him as a 34 outside linebacker / joker? He's very raw and not very good at run defense. Red Eagle said, how do you feel about Andre Dillard for Grant Delpit? Yeah, of course. Red Eagle, I would do that in a heartbeat. David Berry said, James Cook is small. We have Gainwell and Scott in that role. Well, will we have Boston Scott next year, David, though? I don't know. I have no clue, David, if we'll have Boston next year. But we definitely have Gainwell. And Gainwell's a very particular role for the 2-minute offense and stuff like that. Sharif said, Reagor takes too long building up speed. I think that's the biggest issue. Wasted Sharif, I would add to that. So I'll add a little bit to what you're saying. There's a lot of wasted energy versus man press, right? Which is, I think, what you're kind of alluding to, which is instead of just attacking the leverage of the cornerback and then setting him up, there's too much wasted energy, which results in wasted time, which that removes you from the progression of the quarterback. Unless there's a scramble drill, then he might come back and bring you back into the read. So, yes, I do think there's an element to that where you're absolutely correct. Romeo said, grade Reagor for his level of production to this point. Jeez, I mean, even if I'm being fair and nice, it's a D-. That's being quite fair, to be quite honest, because first-round pick, the little bit we are using him for, I mean, I'll give him a D- just because there are moments and times where, you know, he is fairly good when he's playing off coverage. If someone's giving him space to operate and get to the top of his route stem, he can beat you. He's had his moments on jet sweeps and from the backfield, but I'm going to be honest with you, it's not what we envisioned from a first-round pick, right? So I mean, even being nice to him, I think a D- is more than fair. DeAndre Richardson, what's up, buddy? He said, yo, Howie stinks. OAN, did the starting O-line health status come out? Probably won't know that until tomorrow, DeAndre. We probably won't really know it until sometime Wednesday when they release that first injury kind of report. But we got a lot of guys that are coming back from the C-19 list. Kivo said, James Cook, running back for Georgia, is who I want if we take it back in this draft. Ali said, if Tampa Bay has a lot of bad tacklers, should we dress Howard, Scott, and Huntley as contact bounce backs? Would you call Huntley a contact bounce back though, Ali? I don't know if I'd call Huntley contact bounce, but more of a one-cut runner, just like Gainwell's a little bit more of a one-cut runner. Yes, they do have a problem tackling, Ali. You're right on point. Their run defense is better than people think, but when you get to the second level of their defense, they will miss tackles. And I do think that is very important to point out, Ali. That's an A-plus point to bring up. No doubt about it. Takeem said, trade Miles Sanders and draft running back Kenneth Walker III out of Michigan State, or keep Sanders through the rest of his rookie contract. I would keep him through his rookie contract, but I think the bigger decision, Takeem, is what you're hitting to, which is, what do you do with this guy? You know, when he's in games and he's in the flow of the offense, he's good. But a lot of nagging little things that pull him out of 3 to 4 games a year. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is right now, Takeem. I think it has to do with the contract value. In my opinion, it depends on what his agent is going to seek for him in terms of a deal, because I do think that we should prepare people for the possibility that could get ugly and the Eagles could definitely walk and say, we're not signing you for that contract value. Mandel said, developer hire. Quality lowest bidder premium play for bargain journeyman. Oxymoron, spend money on players or charge your coaches to teach. I don't know what you mean by that, Mandel. But I disagree. And I can prove you're wrong. Go back to 2017 and those bargain journeymen. We struck gold. We won a Super Bowl. We don't do that without those free agent signings. And those were not top tier. Those were not top tier guys. Forever Sturdy said, Slay played in his final playoff game in 2015. There you go. So, yeah, early in his career. Mandel said, you paid a quarterback this season, and your quarterback on staff proved he can win with a team hamstrung by a high quarterback salary. Hurts earned Wentz's money. Not yet he hasn't, Mandel. I disagree with you big time there. Not yet he has not earned that type of contract. I definitely think he's the dude for 2022, but you're getting way far ahead in terms of what you pay him. Jose said, should we draft another running back? Miles been hurt a lot. Howard getting older, injuries piling up too, and we rely heavily on the run with Hurts as our quarterback going forward. What's your thoughts? Yes, I think you keep adding, right? You never know what the future is going to hold. You could be in a situation to where it's, the Huntleys. It could be the Huntleys and the Gainwells, and now you need somebody else. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think you always keep looking. I think that they want a Jonathan Taylor type back, honestly. I definitely think that's what they want, the best of both worlds, right? Jonathan Taylor is not Miles Sanders level on the second level, but he's certainly better than Jordan Howard at the second level. You get what I mean? Like, I think they want that in-between guy like a Jonathan Taylor that can be the best of both worlds almost. Now, Jonathan Taylors, who are probably rightfully so should be considered for the league MVP award, are hard to find. Those guys, you can't go into a draft expecting that, but you find a guy that, is that in between, strikes that balance. Drew said, yeah, Hightower has shown some good route running. I'm not sure since we haven't seen him in a while. Yeah, exactly, Drew. It's hard to say where he is right now, but I would have loved to have seen him gotten some running some time last week. I don't understand why we didn't play him. I guess that they wanted to, they took Dallas's approach in terms of trying to build momentum with the wide receivers, I think. Although the rest of the roster, it was very much a completely different approach. Rager needs to be dealt for a defensive player. You got to look at it from this aspect, though, Forever Sturdy. It takes 2 to tango. So you got to have a trading partner who's willing to acquire Rager for that defensive player. I'm not too sure that the value is going to be high enough for that. Matt Hatter said how he traded Cole for DRC and his second-round pick. He traded McNabb for 3 draft picks. traded Bradford, Maxwell, and Alonzo, and got draft picks for Wentz trade, for the Wentz trade up forward. I got you. For 2 first-rounders and Smitty. Yeah, he's worked the board quite well. The guy understands how to win a trade. I would trade Cox and draft Jordan Davis out of Georgia. I don't think you can, man. Bobby, I understand what you're saying, but if you look at the dead money on Fletch's contract, you're eating a ton of dead money. It's going to cost you. Christian said, I don't get why Hightower's not given a shot. Coaching must see something they don't like, but coaches get over yourself. Yeah, season done. I don't know why they wouldn't have played him last week, Christian. I thought that would have been a good game to play him in, to just kind of judge where he is in the development, right? Lamar Kennedy said JJ is on injured reserve. He is. It's very true. And they brought up, I think they put him on injured reserve, and they brought up Jason Huntley. Cree said, what should the Eagles' draft priorities be in this year's draft? I mean, I would spend the majority of my draft capital, guys, on defense. I'm not saying you don't go offense. I mean, if there's – look, you can never have too many offensive linemen. I know people like to argue with me about that, but I'm sorry. Look around the league. You can never have too many offensive linemen. I'm sorry. If you can get a good offensive lineman, okay, I could get mixing that in there, right? If you can get a guy – and I'm not talking necessarily in the first round, guys. I'm talking about just overall in the draft. If you can get a guy that can develop as a wide receiver and can play important snaps down the road, you can get that guy, then you go do it. It's all about where your board is. You got priorities, and defense should be the priority. My suspicion is you're going to find defensive players where we have selections. Somebody's going to get picked because some of these quarterbacks are going to get overdrafted. We all know it happens every freaking year. You overdraft these quarterbacks because people are people. You know what I mean? These guys love to overdraft quarterbacks. Michael said, are there any free agents, defensive ends you think we should get? I know we're speculating about the draft, but is this Howie we're talking? This is Howie we're talking about. Yes, I would say that I can't. His name's slipping my mind, but the kid from Miami, the young man from Miami will be available unless they extend him, and he's a very, very good pass rusher. And you could probably get him for about what you paid Derek Barnett, the $10 million. You could probably get him for that price. Jose said JJ is on IR. Yeah, he's on IR, guys. Beachhead said Jordan Davis. Yeah, Jordan Davis is definitely a nose tackle, guys. But he's a little, if I remember correctly, guys, he's a little overweight. He's going to have to drop some pounds at the NFL level. Drew said, Lamar Kennedy, you're right. It would be hard for JJ to have a good game on IR. It's going to have the best game of the season, Drew. JJ getting surgery on his finger. Cree, don't hold your breath on that, just saying. Jordan Davis is 6'6", 360, nicknamed Godzilla. Bobby, I'll tell you a couple things I have issue with him playing nose. Is number one, 6'6" at nose. You got to be careful. You got to be careful with the guys that are that tall because leverage on the line is everything. And if a guy can get under your pads, you're in trouble. Now I will say, have there been big guys like that like Calais Campbell? Sure, but Calais Campbell was very athletically gifted and a guy that didn't necessarily play nose. 3 tech, they bounced him outside as a 5 tech. They moved him all along the line. You get what I'm saying, Bobby? So you got to be careful with that, man, because those big tall dudes playing nose, that can be an issue, man. People can get leverage on you, get under your pads. But yes, being 360 pounds makes it hard to push a guy even when you gain leverage. Philip, what's up, buddy? He said Rams beat Brady week 3. Saints beat Brady twice. Shut him out week 15. That's when they were healthy and beat up. Now I believe the Eagles going to win this 30-27 by field goal. Fly, Eagles, fly. Philip, I appreciate that comment, and I really hope you're correct, man, because we would have something pretty exciting to celebrate and keep going forward, right? So, Phil, I hope you're dead on, man. Cree said, forget about JJ. I just found out that he had fingers. Yeah, don't worry about it, Cree. We're just messing with you, man. Ali said JJ and Rager can be used in 20s. Yeah, 20s personnel. Yeah, I got you. You could. You're right. But JJ's out now, Ali said. He got that finger surgery. He's done. He's done for the year, it looks like, unless we end up going to the Super Bowl. But it looks like he's done, man. 21 personnel, Rager would help. Yeah, Drew, he would be interesting. It wouldn't be classified as 21, you know what I mean? But if you use Rager in that type of role, you're basically getting that. That's basically what you're doing. It's just you're playing in, some kind of call it an alternative version to it, if you will. Kivo said, I've done about 12 mock drafts so far. You're into the mock draft season, huh? Yeah, it's almost impossible for us not to trade any of the picks. Too many options and scenarios available. Should turn Rager into a Deebo Samuel clone. Problem with Rager is press coverage. I agree, Drew. That's why playing him out of the backfield makes a ton of sense because it gives him free releases. Chaos said, we're thinking someone, I believe his last name is Davis. I got to look it up. Is via 2.0. Roll me one more. What's good, buddy? Hands down, we need Nakobe Dean. We need that linebacker, that impact linebacker. I hear you, man. In regards to Rager, the waste energy is between the ears, cut bait. No, I mean, there's on his film, on the actual way that he releases off the line of scrimmage, Christian, we're referring to the way that he releases against man coverage. He does a lot of lateral movement, and he doesn't attack the corner's leverage, which causes wasted movement and thus delays the timing of plays. And when you do that, you're just basically removing yourself from the read for the quarterback, because if you're the first option, the first read, and you're moving laterally instead of trying to gain leverage on the quarterback, I can't, how am I supposed to know that? You know what I mean? Like, the only time I would say it's acceptable to kind of do a lateral movement versus man coverage is if I'm doing a diamond release on a slant route. That's the only time you should see that kind of configuration. But yeah, I mean, we say running backs dance too much because they don't have the vision yet to play. It's kind of like what he does on the outside as a receiver. Romy said Huntley showed a really good balance, Gate. Yeah, he did. I was quite impressed with him. You're right. I was really, really impressed with what he did. Creed said, if the Birds keep 2 out of 3 first-round picks, what positions or players would you select, Gate? I'm going defense if I can. If I can get corner, I'm going corner. If I can get an interior defensive lineman that I trust can be a playmaker, I'm going to get that guy. An edge rusher, someone that can play, I'm going to get that guy. Now, I think the problem you're going to have is lining the value up. And if I can't line the value up, then I'm not going to be as scared to go for a receiver, just because we still have a need there. Is it as big a need as what we need out there on the defensive side of the football? No. But your other option is to keep trading back and make the value match the players. You know what I mean? You either overdraft or you make the value match the players. You get what I mean? Or either that, you're going to take the best player available on your board. It's got to be that kind of situation. And I do think, fortunately for us, we can upgrade at so many positions. I'm not afraid of taking a center, a guy that can project as a center. I'm not afraid of taking a guard because I can also move another guy in at center, and now I need guard play. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to do a lot of different things. So if I'm the Eagles, I'm looking at defense first, linebacker, corner, interior defensive lineman, defensive end. I think those have to take priority because we need those players defensively. If I can't make the value match, then maybe I try to trade back and make the value match, or I move on to the next part of my draft board, wide receiver, interior offensive lineman, things like that. Marky Max said, absolutely, Dean would be fantastic in Midnight Green. Yeah, I saw someone report that, Mad Hatter. I don't remember who it was, but I was passively listening to one of the podcasts, and someone did say that off the left side, they're definitely vulnerable to the run. Drew said, I would enjoy a conversation with you and Jackson Kruger. He's a Bucks fan, but NFL content creator. Both of you are heavy in the analytics. I think I've watched a couple of his games. I mean, I don't know if I'll have time to reach out to him and get that done before the game, but if I can get in touch with him and if he's agreeable, to that, I wouldn't mind talking to him. Philip said, I got us beating Brady Sunday. The only X factor is Jonathan Gannon. Hopefully he shows up, especially if he wants that head coaching job. Yeah, kind of shocked, but he did. He got an interview with Denver. So I don't think he's going to get the job, guys. I really don't. But, I do think people are interested in his scheme and picking his mind. I think that's why they're bringing him in for interviews. Cree said, believe me, I won't bet any money on JJ, who I found out had finger surgery, or Rager. Romy said, I agree. Richie said, Eagles jet sweep inefficiency is more than just Rager's fault. The blocking needs to work. Most of the time, Rager cannot get up the field, I think is what you're trying to say, until he is outside the hash marks. Richie, there is an element to that is true, but I think it's not necessarily the jet sweeps. I think that's why Rager's efficiency when you look at the tunnel screens on the outside are so bad, because Rager's actually really good at blocking. And I think that's why when you see Quez and other guys get those opportunities, they're more efficient at doing that. And I do think that there is an issue with the outside blocks with this Eagles team. I do think that is true, actually. I think you got a point there. Forever Sturdy said trade Sanders now while he has trade value because he's injury prone. Yeah, I mean, I do agree that he is somewhat, Forever Sturdy, I do agree he is somewhat injury prone, but I think you're in a rough spot because the injuries he endures are just small nagging ones. They're not like these crazy things that can cause a guy's value to completely drop and their careers to tail off, like major ACLs and major like nerve damage and stuff like that. He hasn't had those type of injuries, but it's a rough situation with him. Christian said Jose could not agree more on a big running back later, third round back. Messiah said, so they wanted Jay Ajayi. Good way of looking at it, Messiah. Do you like Walker and Haskins? Like them? Sure. Projecting them and how they would fit the scheme yet, Allie? I need more research before I do that. Philip, I love the way you put this, my guy. You said Huntley and Gainwell are hungry. Let them boys in the kitchen. I like that, Philip. That's funny, bro. I like that. Joseph Brown, how you doing, buddy? Appreciate you commenting, man. Said I want more wide receiver screens with Quez and Smitty, and they need more opportunities, not Rager at this point. Drew said, wasn't Jonathan Taylor a track star? Is he faster than Miles? Drew, I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know. Because, straight line speed is different from, lateral speed. And Miles, I think, is special at the lateral element of things, not necessarily the straight line speed. So, I mean, it's an excellent question, Drew, and I'll look it up for you guys and I'll let you know, but I don't know offhand. We haven't had a legit running back since Blunt. Jose said, what's your thoughts on our safety talent? I really like Marcus Epps and Rodney, but Rodney's getting older. Would they go heavy in this draft looking for an upgrade? Excellent question, Jose, and I think it depends on what you mean by heavy. Do you mean just more than one pick or like multiple top 100 picks? I think it's a hard sell to say multiple top 100 picks just because, the way they value the position groups and, who knows what they really think about Kayvon Wallace. I mean, me personally, I'm a little concerned. I don't know what the front office and the scouts and the coaching staff think about him, though, so it's hard to say. Marcus Epps has got to be considered, too, because I think Marcus Epps is flash and makes you feel like you got something there. So if you keep just one of those guys, say you just keep Anthony Harris or you just keep McLeod for another year or so, you draft a guy, you got Marcus Epps, you got Kayvon that you drafted a couple of years prior, maybe you feel good about yourself at the position. I don't know. So that's a really tough thing to say, but I do think there is a need, Jose. I think you're hitting the nail on the head in terms of there being a need. JJ and Rager are buns. There's no fixing them. I won't say there's no fixing them, Philip, but I do think there's a point of no return to where you kind of have to let another guy or another coaching staff try to work with them. Marky Mack said, yes, Jonathan Taylor was an all-state track star in New Jersey, I believe. Philip said, our top priority in this draft is defense. I would agree. Bobby Murphy said, Eagles gave Cox permission to seek a trade this offseason for the trade deadline, so they must be okay with eating the dead money. No, Bobby. So more reports came back out, though, that said that if they could not move him, that he was likely going to be a part of the team in 2022. So that was kind of the deal that was struck there. So there's a certain value that they will not eat that dead money for. And I think that value is probably day 2 pick or higher. So I don't think they're going to get that, to be quite honest, Bobby. And I don't think it's going to come from that. Now, could there be a scenario in 2022 to where at the trade deadline, the Eagles are really good and there's another playoff contention team that wants Fletch? And maybe they'll give you that value? Possibly, but I don't think it's going to happen during the offseason. I mean, anything's possible, Bobby. I mean, you can never say 100% anyway, but from what I understand, the reporting is that they did talk to Fletch, and that was a part of the negotiations that if we could not move you, it's unlikely you would be moved in the offseason. Joseph Brown said, I want a defensive stud with that first pick, an impact player. Christian De Cruz said analytics league-wide shows wide receivers are generally a bust 3-year player unless it's top 5 overall. Do not waste picks on wide receivers before the 4th round. I don't necessarily say that you don't waste picks before the 4th round, man. It's hard to find wide receivers post 4th round, to be quite honest. I'm not saying those guys don't exist. They do exist. I do think there is an argument to be made, Christian, about the impact of the position group, right? And that's a luxury. That's what you do when you know that you're solid along the defensive line. You know that you're solid at other position groups. But I do think that you have to approach things through who is the best player available. You know you have priorities, right? So you do have to have a discussion about, is the better option here to bypass this best player available at this particular pick and you get back and then get us back into where we have a position of need and gain more assets? Or do you just take the best player available on your board? So I do think there's a little bit of a back and forth with that type of thing. Jermaine Johnson of FSU will be there at 16. In your backyard, Gate City, incorporate what is the high and low of North Carolina State tackle Akeem Kwanu. Incredible ball player, man. Got an opportunity to watch him play twice this year. He is a tackle, plays on the left side, who's projected to bounce inside. So the downside would be is if you want to play him at tackle, it's a little bit of a Jack Driscoll situation to where you probably can do it. He's very skilled. He's a very good football player. He's a very good mover. I believe he played high school ball out by Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very good player. But because of the arm length and the things, the measurables that you look for in a tackle, he's projected to play inside. If he was projected or could play the right side, you take a guy like Aquanu at the right guard position, you flex Jack Driscoll out to right tackle once Lane's ready to move on, and you got Landon Dickerson at, left guard, move Sayamalu in at center, since you like the athleticism of those guys playing that position, you might have something, man. That would be an incredible line, to be quite honest. But I don't know that Aquanu can play. I don't know he can play right guard, to be honest. I don't know. He's more of a left side guy, but he's incredibly talented. Carlos Dunlap was a big guy too. Right, but none of those dudes were really over the nose. You get what I'm saying, guys? Saison said Jordan Davis is a 34 defensive lineman, not a 43. Keep in mind, though, Saison, you can run 2 gap systems in a 4 down, 40 front. You can do that. So it's really not a 34 or 43. It's a 1 gap versus 2 gap. And in today's NFL, you don't got a lot of 34 teams anymore. Things have kind of changed on that. It's kind of weird, right, Saison? Because like 6 years ago, conversation was a lot different around this. But maybe we'll see, because teams are implementing the 3-3-5, which is the nickel version of the 34 front. So we might see if there's another rise again. Takeem said, any chance TJ Watt gets the MVP this year? There's always a chance, but it seems to always go to the quarterbacks, Takeem. I don't think they always deserve it, to be quite honest, but it just seems to be where they normally go with it. Jose said, should we use a high draft pick on center or run with Sayamalu next season, assuming Kelsey is retired? I don't know that Kelsey's going to retire. I hope he's not. I think both of those are great options, Jose, to be quite honest, right? Sayamalu will have trade value. Teams will want Sayamalu. I promise you. That dude is a really good football player, even though he's not better than Landon Dickerson. And even though you could still use him and you can compete with Driscoll, and whoever loses is just, they'll be the top interior offensive lineman. But Driscoll's good. You know what I mean? Like maybe if you don't use him as your center, there is trade value. But I think that would be a situation where you're looking at your draft board and you're saying, you know what, the best player available, is Linderbaum. I want to take this dude, and I can move Sayamalu. I can get picks for him. Maybe they do something like that. Hard to say, but I do think that there is reason to suspect that they might still try to play Sayamalu, to be quite honest, at center. Had a hangnail. Funny, Mad Hatter. Philip said, I'm looking forward to Sweat, Cox, and Hargrave taking Tom Brady's lunch money Sunday. Hopefully Maddox can guard Gronk. That's not the most favorable matchup, man. I hope that's not what happens. Forever Sturdy said, smash the like button, Eagles Nation. It's absolutely free. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that, guys. Mad Hatter said, Boarhead has to go. Bring in Jason Avant. Jason's not coming, guys. Jason Avant said that he doesn't like the grind that comes along with coaching at that level, and like it's very time consuming, and he's not interested in that. Philip said, "I'm so happy we're in the playoffs around this time. We can use Brandon Graham. It's a shame you can't get him back. Yeah, Brandon Graham would just really add to this defensive line. There's no doubt about that." Richie said, special teams can win the game, but they should not be the reason to lose a game. Rager has 0 fumbles lost on punt returns. Large reason why the Eagles lost the Raiders game was Gainwell's fumble in the first half. Richie, I'll say this. I am concerned about cold weather, not necessarily Tampa game, but what I saw from our punter in cold weather concerned the crap out of me, and we're not good at winning field position. We got to be better at field position because it does help. It definitely helps, guys. Romy said, if we trade one of those first-round picks, which pick would you trade, and who do you anticipate being available at those positions? Romy, so I think the answer to that's a little complex, and I hate to give complex answers, but it really depends on who's available, right? Who's available and where do I think I can still get a guy and what's the value, right? If I feel like I got the 15th pick and I got the 17th pick and I got the 19th pick, right? I'm throwing out numbers, guys. It doesn't mean that's what we have, and I feel like the guy that I could still get will be there at 17 and I can trade you 15th pick and I can add a crap ton of value, then I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of who you think you can get, what your positions of need are, all those type of things. So I guess the greatest way of looking at this, Romy, would be like, imagine if you could get someone to chase a quarterback at 15 and trade you not only a 2023 first-round pick, but give you something in 22's draft, like a 4th rounder or a 5th rounder. I might do that, honestly. Forever said, Krieg Godbolt, smart man. Mandel said, I said Hurts earned Wentz's money. He's under contract. That proves you don't necessarily get what you pay for. It leans on my development in-house. 4 years on the practice squad is cheap. I don't understand what you're saying there, man. That's you're going to have to be more clear with what you're trying to state there. Gannon has ties to someone in the Broncos front office. They were with him in Minnesota, more of a courtesy interview, in my opinion. I think they're trying to pick his mind, honestly, Bobby. They do that. They bring guys in to pick their mind. They want to know certain things, why you do certain things, the way you set certain things up there. That's why they do that stuff. Those guys are not going to necessarily hire. Crypto, so yes, Huntley and Gainwell are good and hungry. We should just trade Hurts for a Deshaun Watson. No. I'm not going to sink my franchise or tie my franchise to a guy that has the type of legal pending cases he does. That's a big negative for me. Eaglesman 866 said, do you think we need to sit Rager? No, you can't sit him, but I don't think you necessarily have to feature him either. Mandel said Rager's a little thicker than Quez and Smitty. He makes sense, more sense, sorry guys, as a scat back. He might have found a niche beyond DB. Lamar says Taylor ran a 4.38, Sanders ran a 4.48. Man, that's 4.38 is really quick for a dude that build, man. That's incredible. Could Cox's contract be restructured? Nope. Nope. I looked into that forever sturdy. He only has like $1 million in base salary. Just nothing to really restructure. It's all in the prorated bonuses, so he's already received the money. And it's just the Eagles paying back the league for prorating it. It sucks, but yeah. Milts Williams snaps at defensive end this Sunday. They should flex him. Richie, I would flex him. I would play him at defensive end. I play him at defensive tackle. Like I said, on a handful of snaps, a couple of snaps, if I can get him in a tilt, a zero shade tilt, to where all I need him to do is beat Jensen off that snap and disrupt the interior pass, the interior pocket with that pass rush, I would do it. I don't know if they're going to do it though, guys. Won't the very top defensive ends go above our price range? Not necessarily. Ojabo, and there's a few other guys. But Hutchinson and those guys, yes. Victor Parker said, who do you think we draft first? I mean, I don't know who will draft Victor. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't say that yet. I haven't seen enough signs from the organization. They're not bringing guys in to work them out yet. And, I haven't heard anything being reported from coaches. And you got to kind of have to get that feel of things before you project who they'll take. But what I will say is that Ahmad Garner is really high on my list. I like Ahmad Garner a lot. I definitely think if you can get an impact defensive lineman, whether it's interior defensive line or if it's defensive end, you go for it. And I'll be honest with you, Devin Lloyd and some of these guys at linebacker, Nakobe Dean, they should be considered in the first round. We can use an impact player there. Jose said, what in the world is happening to Brandon Brooks? Is he gone? Feels like it, Jose. I mean, I don't know to be 100% certain, but certainly feels like it. I can't. I mean, maybe he's still unhealthy, Jose. I mean, who knows? But I doubt it. It seems definitely suspect. Mr. One Charlton said, I like Driscoll. The last Eagles starting O-lineman from Auburn was Ben Tamburillo. That's some deep research, Mr. One Charlton. That's some deep research you did, man. That dude needs to be calm like last week. We'll have 15, 16, and 32. I like the confidence, Mad Hatter. I caught the 32. Jeremiah Butler said, Miami is stupid franchise. Oh, you mean for letting go? Yeah, I didn't understand the coaching fire. I thought that was a little reactionary. Jay Koch, what's good, buddy? He said this defense will be trash as long as Gannon is D coordinator. We'll see, guys. We'll see. I think you guys are writing him off before you should. If Gannon gets a head coaching gig, who do you want for defensive coordinator? I mean, me personally, I really like Patrick Graham of the Giants a lot. I think he's the only person on that coaching staff worth the crap that they have. But it looks like they're going to retain their coaches for whatever reason. So he's probably not in play. Look, Vic Fangio is a guy I respect a lot. I respect Vic Fangio a lot as a coach. Mike Zimmer, I'm concerned about, but Mike Zimmer, you can plug and play past Gannon. You know, they're running very similar schemes. Now, there is some Eberflus influence to what Gannon does, and it will be a little different, you know, with Zimmer, but it's not so drastically different to where you fear the personnel in the direction you were trying to go. You get what I'm saying, guys? So you get, you know, you can look to that extent, guys. Gleazy said, you think there's any shot we get Pickens? I feel he would be a great second beside Devontae, and he's projected second round or later. Yeah, it's kind of crazy what the ACL did to his draft stock. I got to be honest. You know, Braylon Edwards, who was the young man that got drafted by the Raiders. Same situation at South Carolina where he had the injury to his lower leg. And it took him, I mean, he dropped drastically down draft boards. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I could be wrong, but wasn't he like a 6th-round pick when it was all said and done? He was definitely not in the first, second round. And that's a guy that, you know, people probably had bad medicals on him, thought he couldn't play, and he's good. And I got to be honest with you. Pickens, in terms of the scouting world and projecting him, his ceiling is a heck of a lot higher than Braylon Edwards. And I liked Braylon Edwards a lot, that 2020 draft. Messiah said, are you going to break down tape of Tampa's offense versus our defense? The first time in our offense against their defense before the game? Yes, Allie and I are working on coming up with some things to break down on film. We're looking over trends because you have to keep in mind Tampa's gone through a lot of transformations because of the players that have gone down. So we are trying to break up and focus in on certain aspects of things. Forever Sturdy said, y'all aren't going to give Hurts his credit. Shame on you. I don't know who, Forever Sturdy. I didn't see the comments, I guess. I wish we could have at least traded him to get something in return, but now it looks like we would have to just release him. No wide receivers in this draft unless it's like 4th through day 3, basically. I disagree, Jeremiah. I disagree. If you're really top heavy in this draft at defense, I can understand taking a 2nd or 3rd round flyer on a guy because at the end of the day, the cheaper you can get receivers, you can't just stop because you've missed. You got to keep trying until you get the right guy. You might keep missing, but you know what? Skill position players are notoriously difficult to get past the top like 15, 16 picks. It becomes incredibly difficult. So you keep trying. Now, I'm not saying you do that with your 14th, your 15th, your 16th, 17th, whatever the other pick is, and your, say, 19th pick, which is projected right now. I'm saying you have to work your board. You know, if you don't have those guys, you have to make a decision of, okay, do we truly take who we think is the best player available, or do we trade back for a position of need for best player available? That's where the decisions come in like that. That guy's been such a disappointment. Oh, yeah, Forever Sturdy, I get what you're saying now. The Crypto's my guy, man. He always comes on here, but Crypto, And you're starting to sound like someone who's not an Eagles fan recently, man. He just doesn't really like Jalen Hurts. I mean, I don't think anyone's being serious with suggesting that we go for Deshaun Watson, given the legal stuff that's going on right now. It's crazy. Not unless he clears his name and clears the charges. We're in the playoffs. How people still talking about getting another quarterback? Rodgers staying in Green Bay. Russell doesn't look like the same Watson. Too many problems. I'm good. After Hutchinson and Thibodeau, who do you like at defensive end in the mid-first round? Ojabo is the next rated guy. I just don't know if he'll be there at like the 15th pick, Bobby, to be honest. Ojabo, you'd have to play uniquely. Like he's more of a stand-up rusher, to be honest. So you'd have to be creative with the way you use him. He'd be more in that Avery role. So you have to truly show me that you would be an impact player. I don't think I would take him in that mid-round area, to be honest, any of these guys. What's his name? Devin Leal, I think is his name. He's a guy from the interior defensive line that has a ton of intrigue to me. But I will say this, Bobby, it's very early in the process, and guys are sure to rise, and guys are sure to fall. You know how it goes, Bobby. By April 10th, the list of dudes that we'll be talking about in the mid-first round is going to be a lot different. So it's hard to say without really diving into film yet. And I'm not far enough in the film study yet, Bobby, to really say. Jeremiah said Miami got us. I'll say that. Then turned around and got the coach that got us. I hear he wanted Lawrence and Watson. Oh, well. Well, they got what they got, man. 4 years developing Mulata was worth it for a franchise left tackle. If you think you can get a player the quality of Mulata in 4 years on the practice squad, okay. Need a farm system like baseball? Yes and no. Yes and no, Mandel. I got to disagree to an extent. Number one, you got to understand who coached and brought him along and just the unnatural abilities of Mulata. You're not going to find that dude every year. You can't go around searching for Jordan Malatas, or you're going to get burnt far more than you hit on those type of things. I would find guys that have a background in football. Me personally, it's I'm not saying that if you find a guy, you can't add a guy here and there and try to experiment, but they're doing that. Mandel, to your point, they're doing it. Matt Leo hadn't played football, and he was also in his freaking mid-20s when they originally signed him. He's been their international player for a couple of years now. So they've taken those flyers on the guy using international exemption to do that, even though it doesn't look like that's going to work. But that's not an effective plan, in my opinion. It's not, you can't bank on it. If you strike gold like you did with Mulata, it's a great story. But Mr. One Charlton said, should we play in the nickel versus Brady for this game? I think you do, Mr. One Charlton, just because of the threat that Gronk is and the fact that their tight ends are probably one area, one position group where they're deep. You know what I mean, Mr. One Charlton? Like, tight end is where they're truly deep. They got Howard out there, O.J. Howard. They had a couple of guys. I think Brayton's there for them. And then they got Gronk. So, I mean, their tight ends are pretty good. So I definitely think that this is a game where, you're not trying to take Maddox off the field because Maddox is one of our best players, and he's good inside the box. And that's what I was saying. Maybe you can get fancy with when you are, or creative, for another word for that. When you are in big nickel, maybe use a Von on some snaps as a safety. And I know they haven't done that, and he's only did that his rookie year. But no, he did that in 2019 or 2019 as well when we were in the playoffs that year. He did play a few snaps out there. What I will say is that Avonte Maddox gives you what you're looking for the lateral movement, right? That motion, that ability to actually be a rangy guy. Now, I'm not saying I think that other people's points about maybe bringing Anthony Harris down into the box, then putting your more athletically gifted safety and Epps over the top as the free, and then playing, your experienced guy on the opposite side there in McLeod has utility in verse 2. I think you just got to mix up the snaps. But I would play more nickel this game. I would. Big nickel in particular. Jose said at the linebacker position, dream first and second round scenarios at this point, in your opinion? Trey Deuce, it's really hard to say that just because it's so early in the process. Dream scenarios are that we end up landing an impact player at linebacker at safety. If you cannot get a Nakobe Dean, if you cannot get, the right guys at safety, and I'm saying safety into the second round. I'm not saying necessarily into the first round. If you can get a Nakobe Dean, if you can get those type of guys that, that can be those type of impact players, Devin Lloyd, I would go for it. I like the young man out of Alabama as well at linebacker. He's very athletically gifted. If you can get that type of player, then in the first, second round, I think you go for it. Fallback plan, you always can. This team needs more and more pass rushers. You can never have too many pass rushers, just like you can never have too many offensive linemen. Between the first and second round, identifying a guy that could eventually be a very, very solid safety for you, or impact safety, or a very solid linebacker, if not impact linebacker, kind of mixed in with the pass rusher, I think is a very, very ideal situation. Now, the pass rusher, I think, could come from your interior defensive line or as an edge rusher. Either one works for me, to be quite honest. Just because Fletcher Cox is probably not going to be here for the next 3 to 5 years. You're looking at potentially next year being Fletcher's last year. So you got Milton Williams, who's definitely, kind of a jack of all trades on your defensive line. So you're just, I think you keep adding. You just keep adding to this type of position groups. I'm sorry, I know that's a very generic answer, Trey, but it's hard to name players at this point. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. I can't really do that in good faith without really running film and looking at also the Eagles film to try to identify exactly what the strengths of the dudes are that are on this roster and what their weaknesses are, and how you upgrade and which guys give you that upgrade. That's a really, really involved process, and it takes time to get there. Philip said, I feel sorry for Carson. He still helped us get to a Super Bowl, and then he lost to the Jags offensive line, can't protect him, and he's still playing hero ball. I hope things turn around for him. It is what it is, Philip. I don't hate Carson or anything like that, but I am glad we're not dealing with that situation. Jeremiah said, we got plenty of free agent wide receivers. Yeah, Jeremiah, I get that, but free agent receivers cost you money. You're going to have to spend for that. And I'm not saying that you don't get like a Mike Williams, but I still don't think that you stop at Mike Williams. I don't think you stop it, even if you got a Calvin Ridley. I don't think you stop there. You still have to keep adding talent to that room. Because at the end of the day, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside probably is not on this team. And even if he is on the team, he's in the 4th year of his rookie contract, and he's a second-round pick. So last year of a rookie deal. He's probably not back, right? Greg Ward Jr., I don't think you can use the tender on him. So he's going to be able to negotiate with other teams this year. He might pick up a role somewhere else where he's going to get more playing time. You don't know what you got in Rager. You don't know what you got in Hightower. Quez is coming along. He's developing. I still think you take a shot. If you can get that guy, Jeremiah, I think you take that shot. I really do. Yeah, Pickens, forever sturdy. Pickens, I think you're talking about, from Georgia. Allie said London and Linderbaum are both top 20 picks. My top guys are Kyle Hamilton, Devin Lloyd, David Ojabo, and Ahmad Gardner. Not a bad list, John. At Philip Preston, facts. Sound like his career is done now, at least as a starter. Sounds like, I think you meant to say that, Jeremiah. Sorry, man. What's up, Mr. Archer? He said, I'm really starting to like the quality and effort you're putting into your production. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. It means a lot. Mandel said, Hurts did the job you hired Wentz to do. You overpaid, but you got what you paid for. Wentz could have followed a team led a team to the playoffs? Hurts led a team to the playoffs? Mandel, I think they both led teams to the playoffs, man. I think you're wrong on that one. You cannot say that the Eagles make the 2019 playoffs without Wentz playing incredibly good against our division. Wentz was lights out down the stretch of 2019. So I have to disagree with you a little bit there. Gleazy said, if we end the first round with Nakobe Dean and more capital, I wouldn't be mad at all. Me neither, Glitzy. Me neither. Philip said, Jeremiah, I agree, by the way. Chat, hit that like button for Gate City Sports. He reads everybody's questions, even if it makes no sense. Philip, I appreciate you, buddy. John LaCour, what's up, buddy? Do you think there's any shot Howie signs Adams, Godwin, Robinson, or Mike Williams? I definitely think there's a shot. I definitely think there is a shot, just because I think they're tired of Jared. Listen, I go after Jeremiah because there's trust between Jeremiah and I. We've been talking on these live streams for quite some time now. There's an aspect of what Jeremiah is saying I completely agree with, and I understand where he's going with it, which is that Howie and the organization is probably tired of hitting their heads against the wall with taking flyers on prospects. They probably just want a proven commodity, which I think he's right about. But I still think even if you get the proven commodity, you don't stop. But yes, I do think there is a chance that they do target, a guy that they know can win at the NFL level. I definitely think that's a chance. Saison, what's good, man? He said, love Maddox, but his height versus Gronk, matchup nightmare. I agree. Jeremiah, what's good, my guy? Big Bird said, Tampa getting Fournette or Rojo back at running back. They might get Fournette back, but guys, until tomorrow's injury list, it's trend. You can only say really it's trending the right way, but you don't really know until you see the designations. Sean said, I agree. Who would you match up with? I would go big nickel personally, but he's asking you in particular, Sean. All the defensive players from Georgia and Bama will be gone by the time we pick. Laugh out loud. I hope not, my guy. I hope not. I went in on those players. My guy. Crypto said, for your information, I actually voiced my opinion big time for benching and trading Wentz and to see Hurts. But after a year of gameplay, I only see him as a bridge quarterback with a Tebow-like ceiling. Many pro critics agree. But Crypto, I got to disagree with what you're saying about the many pro critics agree, because everyone you've named, when I went and watched their videos, you didn't understand the points that they were making, and you were wrong in the assumptions you made. Court Dog said Pickens. Jeremiah said, I feel like I'm fresh out of the pen when we get free from JJ and Rager. Freedom. Mr. One Charleston said the 49ers will send Dallas home for the season. I hope so. Because 49er fans been talking tough, man. And the Dallas fans been talking real tough to Eagles, especially on Twitter, man. The Dallas fans on Twitter were they was talking it up. Gate City, like the clip art. Where's your thinking pile? I appreciate it, man. Guys, I am going to share what I've done. I know a lot of you guys have noticed I've changed the channel up in some very subtle ways. I'm going to create a separate channel for all the aspiring guys who are out here hustling, trying to get subscribers, trying to get videos. I'm going to explain to you guys what I do myself and what I have contracted out. And I'm going to show you everything, guys, how much I've paid for it, the whole 9 yards, guys. I am going to make a spin-off channel that does that. I just don't want to put it on this channel because that's not fair to the guys that are only here to see football stuff. You know what I mean? Sports stuff. But if you guys want to see that, I will let you know when I get that channel up and running. Jeremiah said Wentz leads the 17 team to the playoffs. I don't know how people forgot that. I agree, not because I hate Dallas, but I think the 49ers match up well against them. Also, 49ers defense looks really good. They're also really good on the line of scrimmage, man. 49ers are a tough team, man. Tampa, Philly, and I will say San Francisco have really, really physical offensive and defensive lines. Like and sub everything up there, guys. I appreciate you, Jeremiah. You paid Wentz to play this year. He drew a large salary and couldn't lead the Colts to the playoffs. Hurts might not play well after his bag either, but Hurts did the same job this year. I agree with that aspect of things, Mandel. I agree with that. But I'm just saying, I can't say in good faith that Carson never led a team to the playoffs. He definitely led us there in 2019. And he laid the groundwork for the 2017 team. I'm not saying that Carson would have won the Super Bowl. I think that's very much a projection that cannot be known. I'm not going to say he would or wouldn't have won it. But I will say that he did seal our fate for 2017. I will say he helped us. He basically led that team in 2019, a practice squad, skill position players. So, I mean, you got to be fair in the analysis. You get what I mean, Mandel? Houdini, what's up, buddy? Appreciate you chiming in, man. Crypto, you got to be a Colts fan. He's not. I can vouch for him, Wilts. He's not a Colts fan. He's adamantly opposed to Jalen. Mad Hatter, laugh out loud. All right, guys. Bracket Gronk. I think it'll be a mixture of Maddox and Edwards or Singleton. I definitely think that. I definitely think so, guys. I definitely think so. You misspelled thinking pipe. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. It has been an hour and 54 minutes. I got to jump off here, guys. I got some work I got to do today. But, guys, I love this conversation. We almost went 2 hours. I didn't even notice it. That's how good you guys kept the chat going. You guys are sneaky good at keeping me here. Don't think I don't notice that stuff, guys. I know y'all are sneaky good at keeping me. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much. If I can ask you to do a big favor for you guys, sign out, guys. If you like the content, just do me a favor. Hit the like button, please. If you're not subscribed, consider watching a few more videos. Maybe you'll like the style of the channel. I'd love to add you guys, man. But, yeah. Gate City, I'll read this last one to give you your chance here, guys. Gate City, pros like Shannon Sharp, my bad, guys, and Kurt Warner specifically detailed their criticism of Hurts also one evening ago. Run it back, Philly and Philly Mike spent an hour on Hurts. Philly Mike's my guy. Running back's a really good content creator. Neither one of those guys have ever played the position, to be fair. Also, Crypto, you're wrong about what Kurt Warner said. He just had a recent interview with Jalen Hurts, man. You're wrong. You're putting words into people's mouths they're not saying because you don't understand their point. Criticizing a guy's play and saying that there's areas of growth is not the same thing as saying that the Eagles should move on from that player. You're adding words that they're not saying. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, guys. I'll be back at 9:05 tomorrow, guys. Appreciate y'all. Later, guys.